So today we discussed about attribute closure, and the formal definition of attribute closure is all the attributes or column of a relation or table that can be determined from X. So the attribute closure of X will be a set of all the attributes which are functionally dependent on X. So say R is a relation and with attributes W, X, Y, Z and A, and so and this is a functional dependency where you can say that W can determine X, X can determine Y, and Y can determine Z. So now if you want to find the attribute closure of W, what it would be? We have to see which columns are attributes are functionally dependent on W. So here you can say W can determine itself the property of reflexive property. So we can determine W from the W, and W can determine X. You can see it from this functional dependency. So W can determine X, so we can write X here, and X can determine Y, so it means W can determine Y as well. So this is a transitive property. And then Y can determine Z. So if you have W, you can determine X, X can determine Y, and Y can determine Z. So you can also write Z here. So this is the attribute closure of W. And now let's see the attribute closure of X. So here from this functional dependencies you can see X can determine X trivial dependency, and X can determine Y, so I write here Y and Y can determine Z, so I write here Z. So here you stop. So X can determine X, Y and Z. Now let's calculate the attribute closure of W. So as you know, Y can determine Z and Y can determine Y itself, reflexive property or trivial dependency, and Y can determine Z, so I write Z here. And finally we find the attribute closure of Z. Z can determine itself, that is a reflexive property, and if you see this functional dependencies, Z cannot determine any other attribute, so the attribute closure of Z would be just Z. And finally here see the attribute closure of W and A and that would be W itself and A itself. And then as you can see that from W you can determine X, so I write X here. From X you can determine Y, so I include Y here. And from Y I can derive Z, so I include Z here. So so this is the attribute closure of W and W, A, X, Y, Z, and so this is the attribute closure of W and A. So this attribute closure contains all the attributes of this table, and this attribute closure contains just 4 attributes, 3 attributes, 2 attributes, and so on. So this is the attribute closure.